G'day off-roaders, welcome to the first ever episode of the Off-Road Show. And what is it, I hear you ask? Well, it's a video podcast available free online for anyone who's into the off-road lifestyle. So if you're into it as much as myself and the crew, come with us as we travel the off-road. This episode of the Off-Road Show is brought to you by the Off-Road Cartel Clothing Company. Our first homebrew truck on the Off-Road Show is Mick from Coffs with his 4.2 litre Patrol Ute.
I bought it 3 years ago, and when I bought it, it had a big tradesman's back on the back of it, and since then sold the tradesman's back and put the dual cab Hilux tray on the back. First thing we did was a 4-inch lift with King springs, and then the Snake Racing upper and lower control arms adjustables in the back, and the front drop radius arms. Then from there I think we went to the tray. Because I sold the back of it, I was in a hurry to get a tray, and a mate of mine had this dual cab Hilux tray sitting at home, so I snaffled that at a cheap price, and after a few modifications it's turned out the way it has. A little bit short for the body, but we accommodated that by including some storage bins between the tray and the body, which sort of house recovery gear, shovels, snatch blocks, snatch straps, etc. Originally it had a standard Nissan aluminium bar on it, which couldn't accommodate a winch, and just to be a little bit different, we contacted Freedom Automotive Technologies, and this is the bar that they made, which houses a Warn high mount beautifully. I'm just about to do the HID inserts, which will give me a little bit better light at night. 240s on the front, 2 of those, and 170s up the top. We've got 4 of those. The lights are actually angled, so when we go for a night drive, it doesn't tend to blind the guy that's in front of me, but also gives me light to both sides and directly ahead. And I find it in Coffs here, particularly on the steeper slopes, where you normally cast a shadow with your normal spotlights, it gives me vision straight down into the ruts and hollows, and very good visuals at night. The side steps were sourced from a guy that used to make them in Queensland, just more or less a backyard sort of bloke, but he does a good job, and he turned up at Coffs Harbour 4-wheel drive centre one day with all these bars, and I just happened to be there at the right time and snaffled a pair, and they bolted on beautifully. Very solidly built. When I picked up the vehicle, the snorkel was fitted already. It's a genuine Nissan snorkel, which I think they're AirTech snorkels. Driving around here, you think you want them to be waterproof or not be able to suck any water in. And every time I hit some leaves or lantana, it blocks up that air intake. Mate, the car nearly stalls, so she's definitely sealed. The roll bar on the actual tray is original, but being on the Hilux, we had to cut about 100mm off the height. We dropped that down and then sourced somebody who could bend the 75mm tube for the back bars. That was actually done in Sydney. I took it to a mate of mine, Rob the Kiwi, and one Saturday we welded it all together, and being in a rush, did the hand paint job, and it's still like that to this day. The air tank was put on the back because the ARB compressor doesn't have a tank as such, and the way we figured if we could have a tank on the back with a reservoir of air, lockers and so forth can be switched on and off without having the compressor coming on and off all the time inside the cab. And that initial burst of air, it's good for cleaning out air cleaners, blowing up tyres, things like that. All right, the engine is a 4.2 turbo intercooled diesel. It's stock standard. Turbo sits at about 10 pound boost. I'm quite happy with that. Running a 4.1 diff ratio, it seems to hum along quite nicely with the 35s, so I haven't seen any need to alter boost or do anything to the engine at all. The low down torque with a 4.2 Once I put the 35s on, I sort of lost a lot of that. So that's when we went to the reduction gears of 43% from Marks Adapters. A lot of people said to go 85s, but I found 43s with a 4.1 diff ratio to be perfect. So now down low, it's torquey as. Rear suspension, we've got 4-inch King coils. We've mated that up with a 6-inch Tough Dog adjustable shock, 45mm bore, and we've got some dropout cones at the top and some spring locators at the bottom so that the spring can actually drop back out and then relocate. We've got Snake Racing upper control arms, and the Panhard bar is also Snake Racing. And we've got the Superior long arms, which involve cutting the actual mounts off for the original ones, and moving them forward along the chassis, approximately 300mm, which gives me a lot more flex in the back end. But not only that, driving hills, mate, she just wants to climb. The shock absorbers are all Tough Dog, right round, 45mm. They're all in-cab adjustable. I can't see the sense of having adjustable shocks and having to climb under the car all the time. Yeah, the front suspension setup is 4-inch King coil lift. Once we put the Warn high mount winch in, we found that the front end sagged a little bit. So we've whacked 25mm coil spacers at the top of those just to level the ride up a little bit better. We've got Snake Racing drop radius arms, just to bring all the geometry back into standard specs. We've also got a return to centre dampener. It's a massive big thing, and people think it's a bit of a waste of time, but I find with these big tyres on low pressures, it aids in the steering, and it also takes a bit of that wheel wobble out that you get at high speeds with a low pressure. The tyres I'm running now are 35 12.5 centipedes on a King steel rim, a 15x8. For going in the bush and giving it a hard time, I think these are perfect. I had a lot of trouble with rolling tyres off the bead, low pressures, so we put internal bead locks in by Storn. You can't do all this work to the outside without having the inside doing something. One of the first things we did on the inside was the mounting of the in-cab adjustable shocks, and then that led to other things, obviously a UHF radio, an Alpine stereo system. Then I saw some seats, which is probably the bargain of the century. I got some Recaros, $50 each. Never heard of before, never heard of again. I've seen the boys at the car shows with the PlayStations in their cars and things like that. This car, when I bought it, it had a standard reversing camera, had a 7-inch screen. I don't use the reversing camera for anything, so I thought, why not adapt the screen to a PlayStation? So no airbag in the passenger side, whack the PlayStation 2 in there, 350 watt inverter under the passenger seat. It's all hooked up through the sound system, Grand Theft Auto, full bore. Well, interior wise, I'm running a few extra gauges. One of the most important gauges I think in a car of this sort would probably be a pyro gauge. A little bit expensive in price, but a little bit of protection as well for your engine. I've also got a boost gauge, just to keep a monitor on the boost. So I think boost and pyro, that sort of monitors most of the problems you could probably have with your engine. I built the truck not to go into competitions or anything. People are trying to talk me into doing things and call it a comp truck and all that sort of stuff. I just wanted a capable vehicle to drive around these hills here at Coffs Harbour and enjoy myself, be able to go out touring, go down south. Recent trip down to Victorian High Country, suited it perfectly. As far as the competitions go, I'm not competitive, so I'll leave that one alone. If you're thinking about doing any mods or putting any accessories on your vehicle, I'd go and talk to the guys at Coffs Harbour 4-Wheel Drive Centre, Anthony, Marty and Wazza. Those three guys have helped me out no end. Very, very clever people. They know what they're talking about. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for watching, Off-Roaders. For more information about the show, visit theoffroadshow.com.